necessity, but my side hustle is Director of Arts and Culture for the city of Detroit. And I am so thrilled to be a part of, for the third time in a row, the amazing summit that addresses the questions of our day. And the one for this summit is, Are You About That Life? And we're going to talk about that life with two of the most amazing people in the world. So I want to start by letting you know who they are so we can bring their faces into this spotlight. This session is called Edutainment, and it's our art and culture showcase.
People to help you, to support you, they will.
Okay, I'm glad they're going to support you, but let's everybody mute. Okay, this is called Edutainment, Art and Culture Showcase Part 2. It's an opportunity to get up close and personal with two particular people so that we can really get some intimate details into what it's like to be about that life. Hiawatha D and Veronica Very. You're going to see a lot of them and what they do. I'm very excited. And if we got our speaker view going here, oh my God. You guys look like a king and queen. Hello, Veronica Very and Hiawatha D. Y'all are beautiful, just beautiful. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to get right into this and tell you just a little bit about them, but then we're going to show you something that will give you a better picture. Hiawatha D is a Seattle native artist born in the civil rights movement, inspired by the Harlem Renaissance, engaged in Black culture globally. And you're going to love his story. And Veronica Very is a Seattle native, founder and visionary of Wonder of Women. Wow. And you will be wowed. It's a nonprofit organization that creates a sacred space for Black women to find their voice, stand in their truth, and tell their stories. So I want you to take a look at something that will give you a sense of who they are. We're going to learn about them, and then in a little bit, we're going to learn about the Wow Gallery. So we've got a video that's going to give you a better introduction than I can. Let's show it to them.
In a much quieter Pacific Place Mall outside the shuttered Victoria's Secret, there's something new hiding behind closed doors.
People will actually enter in from this door here, and immediately the experience will begin.
This old Victoria's Secret is transforming into a healing space for women, a way for founders Veronica Very and Hiawatha D to give what they've received.
Over here will be a beautiful water fountain.
There'll be at least 60 pieces of art, and they'll all have their own story.
They're calling this the Wow Gallery for Wonder of Women. It will feature Hiawatha D's visual art with his wife's writing, love letters inspired by the women in the paintings.
Hiawatha's art is unapologetically vibrant. It actually speaks with the energy of color.
Set to go on display in the Wow Gallery is Hiawatha D's iconic Black Women series, which honors trailblazers and history makers, as well as his Black Love collection. And the paintings just happen to fit perfectly into the old Victoria's Secret displays. Even the dressing rooms have a purpose in this new space.
Each room will have its own theme and give each patron an opportunity to sit down and write a love letter and to learn in a space that is literally created for you to reflect, for you to meditate, or for you to be educated.
This is going to be perfect.
They hope this place provides healing, as it's already done for Veronica. Her daughter Ashley died in 2017, and this Victoria's Secret happened to be the site of her first job when she was 16. Veronica and Hiawatha were in the mall ready to settle on another space until a search for fixtures led them here.
And when I walked in here, I was overcome by the energy of my daughter. I remember us having lunch together, our lunch dates and getting together and coming back and picking out bras together. And then to find out that this space actually was available and he thought it was too big. I said, this is perfect. This is actually it.
And then another uncanny connection.
We received our first support from Satterberg Foundation. The first check was dated my baby brother's birthday that I lost to police brutality. When I say that the ancestors, that we can lean into them, that they offer power for us, that they offer divine assistance for us.
And that's why the art and the experience of the new WOW Gallery centers icons from our past as a way to help people today move forward to a place of healing and inspiration. From Victoria's Secret to the true wonder of women on full display.
Welcome to WOW Gallery.
Welcome.
Can you hear the immutable sound of our ancestors? Can you hear the sound and the heartbeat and the cry of a people who matter? In this space, we unapologetically center Black women, the most disrespected, dishonored human in the world, and the most amazing, brilliant, powerful woman in the world. We center Black love. We believe in the power of Black love, and we center Black community. Please receive a warm welcome from WOW Gallery. And since we told you that story, we want to share with you what happens when organizations like ours are paired with philanthropic organizations like Satterberg. In this video, you'll see what the gallery actually looks like. My name is Veronica Berry.
My name is Haiwa Fadi.
Welcome to WOW Gallery.
Oh, my Lord. Well, let me just tell you, Victoria's Secret has yielded to a royal proclamation, and that was amazing, 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 amazing. Before we look at more of the gallery, I want to talk about you two, because you stand there literally as ancestors in the footsteps, you know, of ancestors, and your story is so amazing. I literally am so blown away. I got to just take a minute, because now I want to get on a plane now and head to Seattle. But I want to talk a little bit about this space that you work in. All art is powerful. All art can change the world. All art can be revolutionary. But you came together in a way that I find very interesting, because you're talking about words and you're talking about, you know, medium. So talk a little bit about how the two of you got together.
Oh my goodness, that's a fun story. So the story is that it was Black love that brought us together. I hired Haiwa Fadi to help us design the brand for Wonder of Women. And while we were designing, and he was pouring his heart and his soul into my vision, I just so happened to, in his garage office, discover his art leaning up against the wall. And what I didn't know is that I was actually working with this phenomenal artist. And I said to him, I said, have you ever painted, you know, a body of work that pays homage to Black women? And his response was,
I paint Black people all the time.
And I said, that's not what I asked you. And it was like that. And as we were designing, as we were creating my vision, I made a promise in that moment that I was coming back for this brother and I was going to pour into his vision. Quiet as kept, I didn't know Black love would capture my heart that way. And in the process of creating space for Black women and girls, he and I fell in love.
I tell people all the time, when you're doing good things come back to you. So look at what your good work brought you. This fine brother standing there next to you. I am thrilled by it.
I'm saying.
Now, this session is called Edutainment. So I want to talk a little bit about the outreach that you do. If you could speak about your mission, so people know not just how this came about, from the beauty, what it does and who it works with. And I know it's for everyone. It's for me when I get there, but talk a little bit about your reach and your audience.
So our vision is really intentional. With this particular body of work, Dear Sister, I See You, and Wonder of Women in general, our intention is to create sacred space for Black women and girls to find their voice, stand in their truth, and celebrate their wonder. What I know is healing is an imperative. It is an urgent imperative in this discussion of race and equity and social justice. It's an imperative, and it's part of the conversation that sometimes we miss.
So when we do this work, we just need to let people know that it's important just not to look at the painting, but also experience the work, right? Talk about it, learn about these particular images and what they mean to us as a people and what they've done for our country, our world, actually. So that's healing in itself, and this is what we do.
Yes. Healing, inspiration, and education.
Well, I can tell you this whole summit is literally about artivism, artists who are activists, who literally are doing something. And we've talked about the art that comes out of protest. We've talked about the art that comes out of pain. Now we're talking about art that leads to healing. How do you decide what that looks like? And tell me about some of the reactions to the work. I mean, Hiawatha, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm looking at your stuff and getting chills. So talk a little bit about that healing mission and what that is supposed to do for people and what it does for people, because that's something that we need in every city in America.
Yeah, so let me just start with my decision at 18 years old to paint my story, to paint Black people, was very critical, because in that moment when I made that decision, I didn't realize at the time, but this set up the beginning of my protest, you know, to paint only us. This has never been seen. What you're seeing right here, this 11,000 square foot gallery with all Black women featured. You've never seen that. And so that's healing. So when somebody comes in, and I'm saying women, men, children, they see that, they feel the energy of our ancestors, they see them, they see themselves. So this is how, and this is what is created. And my work focuses on us looking good, doing good, and being well. And this is what we need to know that we possess and we control.
But Hiawatha, tell people about that moment when you were 18, that question that somebody.
So, you know, art school, final project to paint our family portrait. I'm in Seattle. I was the only Black person in the school. My painting were all Black people. My mom, my mother, father, all of my sisters and brothers. This young lady walked up to me, white classmate, and asked, you know, why is everybody in the painting Black? And then everybody started laughing in the classroom, and I didn't think it was funny. You know, being a young teenager, really, that's the moment when I realized it's important for me and everybody else to see me and my contributions to this society. And so, like I said, I just knew I'm supposed to paint Black people. I'm supposed to paint my story. And that's what I've been doing for the last 30, 35 years.
Whoever that pitiful little child was, I want to thank her at this moment. I thank her greatly for whatever push she gave you to the brilliance that you have now.
So I will never forget her name. Her name was Carolyn Price. I don't know if she's still in Seattle, but I'll never forget her name.
Well, I hope she sees this or we can find her. Maybe I'll tweet something out at Rochelle Riley. Look for her. Her name was Karen or Carol? Okay, it was Carol.
Caroline Price.
I want you to talk about the same thing, Veronica. You talked about what brought you to this space and the feeling that you got from there and the connection with your daughter, but talk about not just your connection with the art, but your writing and when you got started.
So I am an artist. I mean, I'm a visionary. I create, I design, I produce. But I also write. I write to convey inspiration. And one of the things that inspired me about Hiawatha's work in particular is that he was telling the story that I feel to change the narrative was critical. That story that shows us in the high place, not, you know, hanging from trees or in a cotton field. And so that for me was inspiring. And in the work, listening to all of these Black women and girls tell their story, I was very, very inspired to not only begin writing myself, but to create space for them to write too. And so we've created a book entitled Dear Sister. And in Dear Sister, it features over 200 love letters from Black women to Black women. And so I think that is a healing modality for us to write, to express ourselves, to share in the deepest place, you know, from the deepest place of our hearts, what we desire someone would share to us, with us.
Oh my God, that's so fantastic. Dear sister, I'm going to ask the team if they can find it and put that in the chat. And if not, then just put in the URL for the WOW Gallery and we'll find you so we can get that book. I want to remind people now that you can ask questions. I ask questions and I'm good at it, but you can ask questions too. If you put them in the chat, I'm following. I will make sure that I get those in too, because there may be something that you are dying to know that I may not ask. I want us to get to the point where we look at more of the gallery because, oh my God, here's the thing for me. A lot of the art that we're talking about that is a part of activism is making a point. It's from pain, it's from protest, it's from, whether it's Rwanda genocide to, the heartache of all of the COVID-19 deaths. This is art that literally lifts you up. To walk into a gallery where I'm looking around, I would be twirling around in a skirt, looking around, seeing this kind of beauty and inspiration and magic. So I'm so thrilled that you came to that as a part of this mission. And what I want to do is ask a quick question that I was going to ask later, but I'm going to ask now, because we're talking about activism and we're talking about reaching that point. When did you know that your art was going to have power and can be used for activism instead of it being something great that might have one purpose or just because it was pretty? But when did you really know that this is the path?
2018.
The year, brother.
2018, when we started this collection of iconic Black women, and the work we were doing around the country, or I was doing with Veronica and Wonder Women around the country, with other women telling their stories, it just dawned on me that it was important for me as an artist to make my statement. I mean, my power is painting. So it's just, to me, 1 + 1 = 2. So I was supposed to paint something to make a statement to recognize and celebrate Black women. And so 2018 is when we started the collection. 2019 is when we did our first show. And that showing, like I said, I received a standing ovation. That's never happened to me in my 30-year career. And the people were so connected to the work. I knew, like I said, again, I knew in an instant, that wasn't about me. It was something greater than me. Mm-hmm. And so I started with 15. I said, well, I got to do 25. We got to 25. I said, I need to do at least 50. So we're at 56, and I'll probably do a few more before I start working on the men. But this collection is just, it's beyond what I ever thought of as an artist, and the reception that I'm getting from the work. But I would say 2018 is when it dawned on me that my work was more than just my work. Wow.
And what about you, Veronica?
Oh, I was going to say, and what I've paid witness to as his co-creator is women who actually purchase this work when they're battling illness, right? Women who actually have come up to him in the middle of an exhibition who said, I was hospitalized, right? Yes. When I discovered your work, I had to come and say thank you. It's undescribable. It's indescribable what you feel when you cross the threshold of this space. Most people refer to, yes, the word wow, but also chills and goosebumps. Yes. It truly is energetically something beyond. And watching him give birth to these pieces, I just feel so very honored.
Oh my God, I love that phrase, giving birth to them, since we're talking about women and talking about creation. That is so amazing. What I want to do now is let people see the WOW Gallery. There's another video, and they need to see. We've talked about the birth. Now we're going to see the baby. I want to just want to experience this with the folks on this summit, in this space with folks who care like we do. So let's cue that up and dive right in.
Two words describe WOW Gallery: class act. As soon as you walk in and going throughout the space, it's just, there's a visceral and an internal response. As a Black man walking into WOW Gallery, I feel that we are heard. We are heard. Because you cannot walk into this gallery and not hear the voices of the women.
I tell you, Hiawatha D, Veronica Berry, your love for one another, your love for the community, your love for Black women, your love for our girls is healing us. And that's what we need. And it's an ongoing process. This love that we have to every day remind ourselves we were born in. We are made in and of love. And the beautiful art that I saw, I didn't see the whole collection, but I was lucky enough with my friend Hazel for Veronica to give us a tour of the exquisite gallery. You know that's in divine order. What a beautiful, beautiful space. It must travel. It must travel the nation. It must travel the world. We're bridging communities, bridging our people, knowing that linking arms and aims, we will thrive. That's the lesson we have to learn. We have to learn that we're more than we seem, that we're human and divine, that the light of love, divinity, it shines within us, and that's where we must look. That's what I felt, Hiawatha, when I looked at the beautiful, beautiful paintings. You captured the light that is within us, that we have to remind ourselves of. Everything that happens to us is in divine order. It always is.
Why they need to come? If they want to experience a healing, that's why they need to come. And the times that we're living in right now, you know, I can't think of a better therapeutic experience than to come through the Wild Gallery.
Okay, everybody on mute for 1 second, just so you can clap. Okay, we're mute again. Oh my God, hold on a second. I'm booking you for Detroit right now before anybody else does it. We are first. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so let me get back into the job here. And I want to ask, because it's so important to me as a fellow artist and as someone who talks to artists all the time, Hiawatha, talk a little bit about the fact that these women are amazing and unique and different without the facial features. Can you speak about your style?
Thank you for the question. Yes. So my whole thing is to, when I paint us as Black people, I want as many Black people to see themselves as possible in my work. So I thought, you know, the first thing to do is to remove all the personal facial features. That was the first thing I did when I started creating this the style that I work in. And I know it works because we have all the people come in saying that's you. I don't know how you knew it, but even before I finish pieces, if they see me working on it, they come in and say that I don't know how you knew. You know, I don't know how you knew how to paint me.
Red, yellow, black, and white.
Yeah, and it's like so the facial features are very, very important item to remove if you want to make your piece a little bit more universal. Even though, like I say, I believe it's important to paint Black images, right? So because I believe also we all know that Black woman is the mother of this earth, so everybody came from Black people. So if you paint a Black image, white people will also be able to see themselves in that image. That's what I believe. That's what I know.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. You guys are going to travel with this, right?
That's the intention.
Absolutely.
It's the intention. So this is a large piece now. There's 67, I think, pieces in here. Most of them are 48.
We got room.
Huh?
Detroit is a big city. We've got room.
Yeah. We were in Detroit right before the pandemic shut down.
Yeah, we came to visit.
Yep.
Rochelle, we came to visit Detroit right before the pandemic actually broke out.
Yeah.
We were in exhibition at Northwest African American Museum at the time, shopping out different places to carry this work. Right now, people get on the plane from all over the country to come here.
That's right.
And I know that is not feasible for everybody.
Right.
And this work needs to travel. It needs to go and be in communities, in non-traditional spaces like this.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions from the chat, and then I want to go back and ask a question about your schedule during the pandemic. How do you decide which ones have what they wind up looking like? I know that some of them, you look right at them and you know who it is, whether it's Susan Taylor or Mae Jemison, or you can tell from, but without the features, which ones are which? How do you know what to do?
That's for me?
Yes, that's for you.
So what do I know? What to
Like
do?
when you're cleaning, how do you decide who that's going to be?
So whoever I paint, it's intentional that I'm painting that particular person. So I try to capture their essence, right? So I look at Susan Taylor, for example, or Serena Williams, and I look at her body shape, how she moves, and I try to capture that in the way that I paint with perspective, right? So we all know perspective is the one that kind of determines and kind of shows us light. So I know light is important. So you see in my pieces, I use shadows quite a bit. So that helps us. That helps me create light and helps me create a situation where the pieces or the people are kind of live or walking or in movement. But yeah, I just try to capture the essence of the person who I'm trying to paint.
And even though, that makes perfect sense to me. And even though you are an artist of many genres, Veronica, when you're trying to figure out the words to go with any particular, and some of the things that literally are in the gallery, you've decided on the different labels, you've decided on the words, on the ribbons. Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I tell stories. And so intentionally, every didactic actually is telling the story of this particular time, which is why I always try to honor the ancestors whenever I open anything up. I want us to be present enough to hear what the ancestors are saying. What is this moment saying, right? And there's so much that interferes with the moment, so many ways in which we are distracted from what is actually happening. So for me as a storyteller, it's important for me to be intentional, not just with my own words, but with the words of the women. So the words from the women are actually what speak in this particular exhibition.
So one of the things I realized, or Veronica helped me put together, is my work, painting, creating art, is telling stories, right? And so each one of these images, each one of these women have a story, and all of our stories need to be told. We all need to be seen. We're amazing people, and we do so much. We need to be seen and heard.
And if we don't change the narrative, meaning if we don't disrupt the narrative of trauma that literally is intentionally in rotation in our daily lives as a people, our children will be paralyzed by fear. Our children will be afraid of their own skin. And for me, that's what convicts me. That's what gives me passion. That's what keeps my heart beating. And that's why we wake up in the morning, because we're thinking now about what legacy are we going to leave? What stories are they going to read? What stories are they going to remember? And what stories are going to be those that activate the brilliance that's inside of them?
Yes. And I can tell you, trauma cannot continue to be a lifestyle that we lead. And then we just move on to the next generation, knowing that is still going to be the lifestyle that we lead. I want to ask you a couple of questions. One, all the way up until COVID, and then one having to do with the past year. So the first one is not about the past year. It's about life itself. And it's something I used to ask as a newspaper columnist. It would be the first question that I'd ask every person that I interviewed. I would start with, tell me about your Detroit. So in this instance, I'm going to ask both of you to tell me about your Seattle, at that space where you work and thrive and deal with and all of that.
I absolutely love this question because just before this summit, I actually made a post asking my Facebook family to pray for me. Pray for me because the siren pollution, the alarms that are being sounded, the homelessness that surrounds me, the energy of our police department and our fire department and the general sort of social condition is something that just it's an earthquake in my soul. And being a Seattle resident, a Seattle native, Hiawatha, Seattle native, I used to be so proud of my city, y'all. I used to be proud of this city. And right now I'm struggling to be, I'm struggling to be a resident because of what it's doing to my body. So thank you so much for asking me that question, because as a visionary, as someone who holds space for vulnerable people, there is a rumbling in my soul about what we see. And to think that, you know, this city, with all of its money, with all of its prosperity, is suffering so greatly, like the middle class is disappearing. It truly breaks my heart. So that's how I feel about this city. It prepared me for the globe, but right now I just am struggling to continue to be here because of what's happening. And then, you know, to hear Jeff Bezos just went to space, right? And, you know, so it's tough. It is tough.
Hiawatha, what about you?
Well, Seattle, so I've been here I lived here my whole life. So it's changed quite a bit. Currently we live downtown and we see a lot of struggle, a lot of trauma. So I don't know, Seattle's it looks nice, but also there's another side of Seattle that says a whole bunch of things, but it's very passive aggressive, and it's just a bunch of talk. So that's always been troubling to me. Again, this is one of the reasons why I always done my own thing. When it comes to art, when it comes to showing my work, which I've been doing, like I said, for the last 35 years, you know, I opened my own gallery in 1992 because of that, because they wouldn't show my work, right? So Seattle's it has some pluses and it has a lot of negatives in my mind. Good people here, but the system is still the system, and it's really slow to change, and that's troubling.
Well,
now, my wife is disturbed, so if she wants to move, we got to move.
Wow. Detroit is here. And let me just tell you, this is what became true for people all across the country and all around the world. People used to point at Detroit and point at Chicago and point at New York and say, oh, that's where things happen to Black people. That's where things are a problem. And then you've got Minneapolis and you've got Portland and you've got Seattle. And it's like, wait a minute, it happens to Black people all over the place. And all we could say is, I'm trying to tell you. So I think there was this universal recognition that, you know, this is something that happens everywhere. As someone said in the chat, you know, it can overwhelm you. And you mentioned, you know, children having to grow up with this on their backs. We literally got the cotton off our backs and we have this on our backs. And it's time for us to put this burden down. So I want to talk a little bit. The second question that I said I was going to ask you was about the pandemic, because on top of everything else, on top of Detroit before COVID, Seattle before COVID, then you got to add all of that on top of it. What was it like doing this amazing work, even if it was activist work, even if it was work with purpose, doing that during the pandemic? Because that's something that every artist can learn from, you know, during this time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think, so, you know, as an artist, doing work is definitely healing, helps me relax, helps me think. So I don't think it really mattered if it was a pandemic or not. I need to do art regardless. Now, because it was a pandemic and a lot of stuff was shut down, it gave me space to do a lot more art. I didn't know during the pandemic, I didn't know if I was going to be able to exhibit all these pieces, but there was something in me that said I needed to keep working. And so I can attribute that to the time we had at home, but it was just the pandemic.
I'm laughing because as a visionary, I see forward. So while since Hiawatha and I have been together, he and I are co-creating. And so one of the things that I know in our co-creation is that he needs to stay on the canvas. As an artist, these prophetic messages that he paints need to be on the canvas because they need to be left in the earth for our babies to see and to look at and to learn from. And so I was very intentional in knowing that we're coming out of this. And while we're in this, we will be creating. We will be co-creating. We will be writing. We will be painting. We will be reading and researching. We will be engaging. And so that's what we've been doing. And I think just in a partnership, that's why I feel Black love is so important, because we have an opportunity to tap into the power that's already in us. And it gave us time to just stop and do exactly that.
Oh my God, we need to put that on a t-shirt, not just wrapped up in love, but wrap up that genius. Let all of that work together. I'm excited by that. I can tell you people in the chat are telling you what cities you need to come to. Detroit was first. Let me just tell you, Detroit is first. We're going to be winding down in a minute, so I want to make sure if somebody has a question, they can get it in. But I can tell you, I am so moved, literally so moved by this that I almost don't even want to ask this question because I want to stay in this space and let this go to 19, 20, 30 cities. But what's next?
So what I want to do before we talk about what's next, I just want to be sure that people know that this is not just a normal gallery. In the video, you see a lot of the art, but what you don't see center in the middle of this 11,000 square feet are the dressing rooms that we actually converted into healing suites, right? And our intention is that people, I'm sorry?
I said, I saw that. I love that. So please continue.
Okay, yeah. So I just want people to know that they can come here and rest. I want people to rest, renew, and revive in this space, right? So we're not doing things the normal way. We're not seeking the gaze of anyone else, but we're just activating a proliferation of our culture in this space. So we'll be doing, yoga, we'll be doing dance, we'll have meetings, and the United Way, City of Seattle have already booked space, in here to come and do their race and equity work. So that's really what it's all about, us finding ways to create intentionally space for us to renew and revive.
I love that. It's not a gallery. Not only a gallery. Okay, so now, because we're going to be winding down, and I want to make sure people know, have you already started to think about, well, when you do something this magnificent, you don't have to do anything else right away, but have you thought at all about what's next?
Yes, we have thought about what's next. In the city of Seattle, there are many iconic buildings. There's an iconic football field, an iconic baseball field, an iconic arena, and so much more. And our intention is that we want to create space for this to live forever in legacy and perpetuity. So what does that mean? That means we want to build a state-of-the-art contemporary Black love art sanctuary and cultural institute. We want to create something that Black people can be proud of, a space and place that is Black space owned by Black people, Black organization, and a space that can live on to tell these stories. Because what we know is America will be America. But if we leave that kind of legacy, we can actually begin to put in rotation a space where people can come to do this work. So that's what's next.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We have listened to the hunter tell this story for too long. It's time for the lion to roar. We're going to hear the other side. We're going to, oh my God, I'm so excited about this. If I weren't so happy in Detroit, I would move to Seattle. I still want to, we can still help from afar. So, after you visit Detroit, you can go back with all of this support for what you want to do. Hiawatha, I want to give you the last word about what's next for you. When you make something this iconic and become known for this style, I don't know if you're ever going to want to do something else, but I want you to talk a little bit about what's next for you too. Is it a continuation of this? You mentioned there might be men.
Right. So there's going to be, well, I can never paint enough Black women, right? There's so many that need to be recognized. So I'm going to continue the Iconic Black Woman collection, but I'm also going to start the Iconic Black Men. It won't be called Iconic Black Men. It will be called something different. But I'm going to do men. I'm going to do at least 50. That's my first goal. And then there's a couple of other collections that I want to do. There's a Black Gold collection I want to create, and then add to my Art, Jazz, and City collection as well. So again, I'm always interested in space and displaying in different parts of the world. So I would like to do a show abroad, a couple shows abroad. So that's what's next for me.
I'll go. After we leave Detroit, I'll go with you to any city. We can go to Paris, we can go to Amsterdam. I can tell you, Zoe Barker Adderam is saying to everyone, to you all, thank you for creating space to make this city a better and more livable place for Black folks. And it is so important for people to understand that art is a way of life, and it guides our way of life, and it teaches us how to be. So as we continue to focus on artivism and finding out who's about that life, you have met two people who are absolutely about that life. So I literally applaud you. I thank you. I can't wait to see the gallery in person. We want you all to stay tuned. There's going to be a break, and then there's going to be more stuff that you'll be hearing about from CC, but just unmute for a second so we can do some real applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.